Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Only Run Very Noob, and bringing you more Bravo gameplay. Today we are still going against one of the new mechanologists. I'm definitely trying to play these heroes a little bit more, just to get up to speed with what they might be doing, keeping pace with any trends that the deck list might be having, to get ready for ProQuest season, just in case they might show up. The other matchups definitely could use some practicing, of course, like always. But their matchups, I think I understand quite a bit more than the new heroes, of course. My opponent's a pretty good player. If you play on Talishar, you might have seen this guy, Cold Pad Thai. He normally plays Rhinar. And I've definitely lost my fair share of games to him. So as soon as I saw him playing Teklovossen, I hit the record button so I could see maybe what he was doing and maybe have some confidence that he was at least going to be taking reasonable lines the entire time. Again, he's probably still has like a new deck and isn't entirely sure how his deck should be built and how maybe his sideboard plans into all the matchups should be. But yeah, a good player piloting a bad deck is better than like a bad player piloting a bad deck, right? And it might not even be a bad deck. He might be really close to where he wants to be. I was trying to go back to see my sideboarding strategy, but yeah, I side out all the defense reactions, or all the red ones at least. I keep the blue unmovables in just because I only run 39 blues, so I run all 39 in every matchup. Side out 3 sinks, 3 fates, red unmovable, and then the 3 sigils. Not entirely sure if this is where I will end up once I'm comfortable with the matchup, as the defense reactions do have some play into like their big EVO activated overpower attacks. But I think my main game plan into Teklovossen as it stands now is to try to resolve a buckle and destroy one of his 4 armor slots so that he can't ever activate Singularity. And then from there, it's fairly easy to just play a value game and outgrind them. If they don't have Singularity, they can't really go over the top. If they don't have 4 EVOs, even their big attacks aren't hitting for 9, they're only ever hitting for 6. And stuff like Rouse the Ancients and Zealous Belting are just like producing so much damage with only like 1 card fatigued from your deck. So generally, if they're blocking a ton, even if they're like equipping armor and blocking like with EVOs that block for 3 then 2, that's like 5 block value off of 1 card, right? But it costs them tempo, and even when they play those, you generally will still be able to fatigue them quite easily. Maybe as time goes on, it'll be a lot harder to land a buckle. Like maybe they'll just like start playing a ton of defense reactions. So might need to develop a backup plan. But as it is, I just try to outvalue them, play it kind of like a mid-range or control mirror, and go from there. We win the die roll and go first. And getting rid of 2 buckles on the first turn isn't something I'm looking to do. So I think from here I will be imposing Visage, pitching a buckle and the Macho Grande, and then keeping one of the buckles around. What to imposing Visage for, though? So if my main plan is to buckle away one of his equipment pieces, I kind of like imposing Visage for Buckling Blow here. It sort of makes our plan face up, so our opponent could like arsenal a defense reaction or something instead of pitching it to like play an EVO or whatever. But I think it's still sort of important. There's a chance you could just get rid of all the buckles and like make a surge and then arsenal Crippling Crush off that you tutor off of the Visage, but I really do value the buckles quite highly in this matchup as it stands currently. So we see go get a Showtime and then get a red Buckling Blow. And I believe I'll just arsenal the Buckling Blow over the buckle. Not entirely sure which one of these cards is better to arsenal here. But the thing is, we really want to keep both of them anyway, so. We see our opponent filter their hand. They pitch 3 reds to activate Teklo and then just don't play anything. So maybe they have like a 4 red hand and they want to get rid of some of that stuff. So we're going to draw an extra card off Showtime, and we could potentially buckle this Buckling Blow. How much is that going to cost? 7? Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 6 in hand, so even if we draw a red off Showtime, we could buckle the Buckling Blow. But we'll see what he decides to do and how we decide to play this turn cycle. They end up just playing the EVO Soul Arms. So this makes buckling the Buckling Blow kind of tough, right? Because it's going to be 9 Dominate. And to crush with Buckling Blow, we have to hit for 4. And because he can block 3 with his arms and 3 from hand, he would only get hit for 3. And our buckle would actually trigger before Battle Worn triggers, so we couldn't even destroy these gloves that he would be blocking with. And we already pitched another one of our buckles to the bottom, so we only have 1 more in deck, at least for like the next 13, 14 turns. So I'm not really sure I'm looking to buckle the Buckling Blow here. But if I'm not doing that, what am I doing? We drew Zealous Belting off of the Showtime. I could just play Zealous Belting into Buckling Blow and then like arsenal the buckle. Buckling Blow costs 4, Zealous Belting costs 2. We could pitch our 3 middle cards here for 6 total. And getting some damage and also getting some blocks, because they're going to block the Buckling Blow, right? Like, they're not going to let that hit. Because if we tutor Buckling Blow off of Visage, they've got to imagine that our plan is to buckle them. And if we pitch to buckle to play Imposing Visage, they might even have a read that we have, like our last card we saved was a buckle as well. Because why would we pitch the buckle going to look for the Buckling Blow otherwise? What are some other lines we could do here? Not a lot that we could do and still maintain the buckle. So yeah, it looks like I am going for the Zealous Belting line. Just dealing 13 damage with a relevant crush effect on the second attack for 8. We even see him just block 5 here. So they're just not really going to have a hand once they block this Buckling Blow, because I can't imagine they don't block the Buckling Blow. Blocks with base head, which indicates to me that they're probably going to play an instant speed EVO. Because if they just block with that and let Blade Break resolve, we don't even need the buckle anymore. They'll only have 3 armor slots. Yeah, so they take that back. But a neat trick they can do is block with it for 1. And then, I don't know if you have to do it after Resolution Step or before Resolution Step, but you can like re-equip an EVO and it won't go away. So yeah, they block with an EVO helmet from hand for 3, and then their gloves for 3. Evading the crush effect. But we don't need the crush effect on Buckling Blow anymore because they possess an armor with a counter. So at this point, we only need to buckle them. We don't need to buckle a Buckling Blow. And we draw 3 blues and a Spinal Crush, so we can buckle this Spinal Crush for 10. They don't have an arsenal, and they can only block 4 with armor. So unless they have like a red unmovable in hand, or I don't know, a 6 block, I think that might be the only, like yellow unmovable I guess would also work, but I've never seen anyone play that card besides me. I played that card like 2 years ago in Control Dash. I know, disgusting. So yeah, I think we can just play Buckle here and make a Surge and Spinal Crush. And I think it's always important to try to buckle an attack that's bigger than your hammer, because as we could see, they could block 4 with armor and 3 from hand. So if we buckled hammer, they would just easily block it out. But if we buckle like a big attack, anything that's 8 or more, they have to block 9 or more dominate, and it's not a crush effect, it's just an on hit. So they are probably going to lose an armor here. I can't imagine that they have too many ways to block 6 from hand. It could be something like Oasis Respite. That's another thing to think about. Or like Reinforce the Line, although I'm not sure Teklovossen could ever afford to play Reinforce the Line because they play a ton of cards that are not attacks. But there are a couple effects that let you sort of beat Dominate without an arsenal. But we're really hoping we get to destroy an equipment here. Because if we get to just destroy an equipment here, a lot of their deck is weakened and sort of, if not just turned off. Like Singularity, they can't play. Their gun can only ever be 2 go again. It can't be 3 go again. And all of their big EVO buffed attacks will only be for 6. So yeah, we end up destroying their gloves, and now we get to just sort of enable a fatigue plan. Usually we fatigue them by damage because they kind of dirtle. They don't attack you heavily. And when they do, it's not like the most insane attacks in the world. They just sort of throw 6 at you with an on hit. Sometimes starting with their gun for 2 go again. At least from what I've come to understand so far. Here they do like a 2-card 7, which is a little okay. You know, it's not like a bad turn. It's more of like a good sealed turn more than a good CC turn, but it's something. We just take the damage because we want to pummel this Command and Conquer. They block 6, and we get the pummel in here. They end up having the Oasis Respite, which is kind of scary because that means it's in their deck, and they could have stopped our buckled Spinal Crush if they drew it on time. Luckily for us, they did not. Here we draw a hand that can Rouse the Ancients, and they're only threatening 2. So I'm just going to take 2 and then Rouse the Ancients, arsenaling a Crippling Crush. Just sort of getting the most damage value, because I believe that they do play defense reactions. As we see here, they play a red unmovable even. So they would have had a lot of cards that could have stopped our buckle had they drawn them in a timely fashion, but we just kind of got to do it so fast, so early, that they hadn't seen one of their cards that could have stopped it. So that might be something to be mindful of, is these control Teklovossen decks might easily stop your buckle, so developing a backup plan might be something worth looking into, something I should probably think about. I'm just going to dominate a Crippling Crush here. Pretty simple, just trying to do what we can and get a lot of value. They have a red unmovable in Arsenal, which is like the perfect answer to dominate a Crippling Crush. It just blocks for 8 and stopping all the effect. I have a Starstruck in Arsenal, They have a 3-card hand though, so we're probably going to end up blocking. But if we didn't have to block, I would probably just dominate the Starstruck and Arsenal the Command and Conquer. Not a ton to think about. But if they attack us, I'm probably just going to end up blocking 6. So yeah, they come in with a War Machine. What does that one do? That one destroys Arsenal. Luckily, it doesn't have Overpower yet because they only have 2 EVOs, so I'm just going to block 6 and then make a Surge and throw Command and Conquer. Looking to maybe set up a turn cycle next turn where we get to block 6 and then just send Starstruck without it being dominated. Not dominating our attacks is perfectly fine into this matchup, especially since we've already destroyed one of their equipments. We just want to out-fatigue them now, which shouldn't be too hard. Their weapon attacks for 2, ours attacks for up to 6, and that allows us to just get way more offensive output than they can without expending cards from deck, which is the key to winning the fatigue race. They send the Teklo leveler again, and with only 2 EVOs, this is just 2. It doesn't even have go again, because they need 3 EVOs to give it go again. Probably just going to block with this Pummel and then just throw Crippling Crush undominated. It would be nice to not have to block with Pummel. I would like to pummel something, but I can't this turn unless I wanted to like use my Crown, but I don't want to do that. I'd rather save Crown for in case he gets 3 EVOs and some of his big attacks have Overpower. So just going to use the Pummel to gain 2 life here. Kind of unfortunate. Interestingly enough, if the Arsenal and the Crippling were swapped, so like if we had Starstruck in hand and Crippling Crush and Arsenal, we could dominate the Crippling Crush, pitching, 2 blues and a yellow and then Arsenal to pummel. But that's not what our hand is, so we don't get to do that. But we just get to save a little life and then just throw a big attack that's going to require a bunch of cards to block it. Unless he has another red unmovable in Arsenal. But it would be his 3rd one, and we got to get through him somehow, right? They really only have 2 more armor that they can block with currently. Like, yeah, they could block with their boots and then block with it for 1 again, but that would destroy one of their armor slots, essentially, forcing them to either fabricate, which is a way they can get armor back, or play with only 2 EVOs. But 2 is the magic number. It would combine with 2 other 3 blocks to stop 8. I know it looks like they're just blocking 2 and 2 and then using a defense reaction to get up to 8. This hand's a little annoying. We have a Rouse we want to play. We have a Zealous Belting we want to play, but we can't turn on either one. We don't have an attack in our hand other than the go again attacks. So I might be looking to take damage here just to like dominate a Starstruck. I'm not sure if that's correct, but if we dominate the Starstruck pitching our 3 blues, it allows us to Arsenal Zealous Belting. Another option would be like blocking with Imposing Visage and blocking with Showtime, and then making a Surge and just sending Zealous Belting for 5. Not ideal. They play Scrap Trader, which lets them scrap 2 cards and get 4 resources, which usually is used to scrap some equipments and then pitch a blue to activate the hero and play one of the equipments. If they end up playing that helmet... Oh, they don't play the helmet. They play the boots. If they ended up playing the helmet, they could have gone up to like 5 int. But they play the boots, and it just... Oh, it gives him another action point, so he can still play the helmet. That's actually pretty sweet. So they get the best of both worlds. We're not giving an opportunity to block, and we don't really... It would be so nice to be able to activate this Rouse or this Zealous Belting to sort of like punish them for giving us full tempo, but I guess we're going to have to settle for a Dominated Starstruck, which isn't going to hit if they don't want it to hit because they have a ton of armor. And they just have like a huge hand, although I'm not entirely sure what Teklovossen does with a huge hand. Like, they don't seem to have a lot of go again. The only go again you see like all the time is their gun. And right now they don't even have all 3 EVOs to give the gun go again. So not entirely sure what they're going to use their huge hand for. They do show us equipment blocks and a defense reaction. So it looks like they are just trying to keep their life total high. They still have a 5-card hand. We have a Zealous Belting Arsenal. We have a blue that can turn it on and another blue that could hammer for 6. So if we really want to block here, we could block with Buckling Blow and then have a Zealous Belting turn an Arsenal Crippling. And if we're not really threatened and don't really feel like we need to block, we could even just like Zealous Belting into Buckling Blow and Arsenal to Crippling Crush. But I'm not like... I don't love that line that much because it doesn't give us a surge, and having a surge with Crippling Crush and Arsenal is pretty good because it lets us just throw it off 2 blues. He just sort of throws this attack at us. Magnetic Protocol. It makes you block with equipment that have -1 counters on it. None of our equipment has -1 counters on it, so it's effectively just a 3 for 5. We see him pitching an EVO, but then also Heavy Artillery. Heavy Artillery might be a card that we gotta worry about, because it won't let us block with attack action cards that cost less than the number of EVOs they play. Oh, and I guess they can only get 3 EVOs, and like all of our attacks cost at least like 3. So I don't think that's really has evasion against Guardian. The attack for 5. I feel like I should block with Buckling Blow here, but I don't know if I do. Yeah, it looks like I'm just willing to take the 5 to deal an extra 2 while also threatening a Buckling Blow trigger. Which is fine. Like, threatening the Buckling Blow trigger is nice. I just throw Crippling Crush here. That's a line I hadn't even like considered. I mean, it's kind of hard to go wrong. Like, if I'm trying to fatigue him through damage, this is the exact kind of attack you want to attack him with, but I think blocking 3 with Buckling Blow, having a Zealous Belting turn and an Arsenal and Crippling Crush with a Surge up is just like more efficient. He War Machines me here, which destroys a card in my arsenal, and I immediately hover over my crown. So there's a lot of things we could do here. There actually might not be too many things that are reasonable here. I was thinking we could block 6 and then still come in with Zealous Belting into Hammer, but we can't do that because our red is a 2-block. We do have 2 attacks that turn on Rouse the Ancients and a pummel. So I could crown, take 4, get rid of my Arsenal Zealous Belting, and hope to hit a blue. If I hit a blue, I can Rouse the Ancients. Or I guess if I hit a blue or an attack. Oh, so I have to hit a blue. If I hit a blue, I can Rouse the Ancients, pummel to Rouse the Ancients, and then still hammer for 6. If I draw a red attack, I can still have a Rouse the Ancients turn, but then I can't pummel to Rouse the Ancients. I could just Rouse a hammer and then Arsenal either the red attack or the pummel, which is a lot worse than hitting a blue. But it looks like I really want to hit a blue. We end up getting there. So I'm gonna be able to pummel or Rouse the Ancients into a hammer for 6, which is 17 damage and a discard trigger, which is quite a bit. They've shown a lot of defense reactions, so the pummel might not even hit, but just like fatiguing them with damage, this is like a huge turn that even if they defend it all, I only had to use 2 cards, and they're presumably going to have to use like 5. They do block it exactly for 7, which means a Fate Foreseer Sink Below would stop the pummel, which would suck, but I think we always just go for the pummel here. And it ends up hitting, which is very nice because now we get to make a surge and send hammer for 6, and they can only block the hammer with 1 card from hand. Because presumably if they had a defense reaction in Arsenal, they would have stopped the pummel. So they just take 6, and they only have a 1-card hand to crack back. We're at 20 and feeling very good about our spot here. We can just take this 2 all day and send a Starstruck back, pitching 2 of our blues, and then we can Arsenal the Command and Conquer. I don't think I have any pummels left in my deck. I think I've used all 3. But still having a Command and Conquer in Arsenal is pretty good. We could block with 3 cards, saving a blue, and still make a surge and threaten 6, plus threaten their Arsenal. And we've already seen like a bunch of defense reactions from them, so it might even, like, that part of the card might be reasonable as well. They use their whole hand to stop this. Because they have to pitch to Oasis, they don't have like Tunic or anything. And we get to just keep teeing off. Our biggest attack here is Spinal Crush. Tear Asunder might be kind of nice here. Because presumably this is not a defense reaction, or it would have gotten used like 2 turns ago. Or last turn. It would have just been used by now for sure. But just making a surge and dominating Spinal Crush, I think, is also fine, because this isn't a defense reaction as well. Just dealing damage when they're at 7 is going to be solid. And the cards in their hand aren't really... I don't think they're going to be able to threaten us that much. If I really wanted to keep them on a small hand, I would Tear Asunder. But I don't think Teklovossen can do anything too scary without like having the option to Singularity. And we still have a bunch of armor too. And we have way more cards in deck. They have 27 and we have 34, plus 3 cards in pitch. And after this Battle Worn resolves, or this Temper resolves on their helmet, they're going to have basically no armor block that doesn't cost them the slot. And I'm not sure they'll have enough room to set up more EVOs, being at such low life. They block 5, 2 from equipment, 3 from hand, and end up just going down to 3. And they serve us up a War Machine, which I believe is the one, yeah, would destroy our arsenal. So we could just straight up block with 3 of our equipment for 6. The Quicken token's probably not going to do much because they're at such a low life total that they can't really keep a big hand to utilize the Quicken, like by sending multiple of these War Machine type attacks at us or anything like that. I could also just block 3 with Starstruck and sort of let them destroy my Command and Conquer and Arsenal, because I really do want to Zealous Belting them. I think Zealous Belting into Hammer for 11 total damage is going to really force the issue and eat up their hand. But I'd probably just end up giving them all my armor here. Again, like I said, the Quicken token from Civic Steps is basically doing nothing. And if we block all 6, we can Zealous Belting into Command and Conquer, potentially killing them if they draw like 2 defense reactions. And don't want to use it on the Zealous Belting, I guess. I just block with Zealous Belting? That seems bad. I block with Zealous Belting and 2 equipments, looking to just throw the Starstruck raw. But that seems so much worse to me than just using all of our equipment and Zealous Belting into Command and Conquer. Yeah, not too sure what I was thinking here. They pressed undo and we continue to make our mediocre play here. They just pitch into Teklo to cycle. And we play a Starstruck. I think this is way worse than just Zealous Belting into Command and Conquer and arsenaling the Starstruck. It's probably still a winning line. With us being at 18 and them being at 3, just sort of attacking them turn after turn, even if it's just with Hammer, is probably going to get there. I'm no Teklovossen expert, but from what I've seen them being able to do, this is not a game state that they can come back from. I could just not block and then dominate the Spinal Crush. It's only 2 damage. Their weapon is really not that threatening at all. I wouldn't be surprised if Teklovossen adopts like Teklo Plasma Pistol and pistol items to try to grind out these sort of matchups. They don't get to start with an item like Old Dash, but maybe it's like a sideboard plan they could have. Like, I don't know if it would be good, but I don't think I'd be surprised for the deck to end up on something like that. They make an armor so that they can block our dominated attack. They have to block with their helmet as well, because they're going to block 4 with Fate Foreseen from hand, and they can't take 2, they can only take 1, so we get to kill their head slot as well. And with them being at 1, I mean, what can they really do here? Even if they could stop all our damage for the rest of the game, they're just going to get fatigued. I don't have any big attacks here. All of my attacks were 6. But I'm going to do something I don't do that often, which is break the Crater Fist. I have enough blues to make a surge, activate Bravo, break Crater Fist, and then play Debilitate. Hoping that 8 Dominate is slightly better than 6 Dominate. Very rare that I break Crater Fist. Let's see if they can survive. It looks like they have another equipment they could play at instant speed to maybe allow them to block a dominated attack here. Yep, they get a 3-block leg, and they have 2-block on chest, and then they get to block 3 from hand. So they just make it. Again, probably not enough for them to win this game, but they're holding on here. And here we have a red buckling blow that we're going to dominate. Just keep dominating the biggest attack we can, and hopefully eventually it's just good enough. And even if it's not, it'll probably cost them a lot of cards to block it, and they'll fatigue. And they end up blocking 7 here and taking 1 for the game. So I thought this game was like one of the better ones with the new heroes that I played. My opponent, I'm not the best at judging how well my opponent played, but because I know who the player is, and also they didn't do anything like that I noticed was bad. It felt like they were trying to be efficient as possible, and they might have just got a little unlucky because we got to destroy something with buckle. But yeah, hopefully this game was a little bit more competitive than the last few I've shown. Maybe this will give you an idea of how to best deal with Teklovossen. Maybe this is a really hard matchup, like if they draw their Oasis Respite or Red Unmovable in time to just stop your buckles from going off. But I think if you apply enough pressure and you're just kind of efficient, the onus of doing something game winning is really on them, because if the game goes super long, you're just going to fatigue them, right? Like their weapons attacking for 2, maybe 3, and your weapon's attacking for 6, so you're just getting like they have to block with 2 cards, you only have to block with 1. And that should lead you to fatiguing them, all other things equal. Of course, all other things won't be equal. If they resolve Singularity, they just get to like play that big crazy robot. And I haven't had anyone resolve that against me yet, but I imagine it's a lot easier for them to win if they can. The funny part is it's still an equipment, so you can still buckle the robot when it's in play, and if you buckle the robot when it's in play, they just lose because then they don't have a hero anymore. So that's like really funny. I hope I get to do that one day. I really hope I'm recording if I ever do get to do that too, because that's just like incredibly funny and silly. When they turn into the robot as well, they just don't have any more armor over here. So maybe like a buckle for 10 is a lot harder for them to stop. Although this build played like a lot of defense reactions, and they'll still have those in their hand and in their deck. So hopefully this was fun. Learned a little bit about the new hero, and I'll see you guys next time when I make another video. Thanks.